Hello, fellows. Let's talk about dilemmas. If you're stuck on a regular basis in dilemmas and you don't really get to a choice you want to make or a decision in which direction you want to go, it is very likely that you are in a state of constant procrastination because you postpone things into the future because you're afraid to make a change. People are often viewed with the idea of, hey, this guy or something like that is doing these gut feeling decisions, just shooting a decision. But for many people that actually works. So why is that? Making a decision for one or another thing is in most cases not life-changing. We tend to think that a decision, if we need to buy something, if we need to actually make a decision for the next sprint planning or something like that, let's talk about this. Because in reality, a dilemma shouldn't happen for someone who is very disciplined and very continuous in what you actually do. What I mean by that is, a dilemma is a stuck moment. It is a moment where you cannot make a decision based on the current patterns you have. So you don't dare to do that because you don't know. Connected to the fallacy of choice, the more choices we have, the more drawbacks we see, the less likely it is that we actually make a decision. But why is that a negative thing? It is a very negative thing if we have that on a daily basis. So if we are a leadership person, if we are a senior person, something like that, and we need to make decisions, we need to be able to make those decisions. And the Stoic idea behind that is that no matter what you make with those decisions or how you decide you want to go with that decision, that is not the point where you actually stop. You quickly think of what do you need to do, and then you go for one thing which looks best for you, as long as this choice doesn't harm you or other people, or it costs you a tremendous amount of money and you can't replace it, or it basically hurts you in any other way, more or less than the other, and you need to make a choice, then make a choice. And the idea is that you will see anyway what happens, and you learn out of that, and then you aim for the next time you actually need to make a decision similar to that, and you then have adopted your stance because you have learned new patterns. So it's basically you make a decision for either side, then you take a look, what is the consequence of the decision? There is involved probably some form of emotion, maybe there's a little bit of regret that you have done something wrong or something like that. That's totally fine. So see that from an outside perspective. You just need to accept it, learn out of that, so reflect it basically, and then adapt. That creates new patterns where next time you get to the situation, it is easier for you to make the right decision and you can be faster with that. If you tend to do that, you will then see on some point in time what kind of decisions are actually severe and which are not. And you will see that most decisions are not. Your decision right now, it is just for 1 week. And on a long enough timeline, there is no issue with that first week anymore. So you have adopted, you have corrected, and these kind of things. The earlier you actually get the feedback, and the earlier you create the patterns which actually help you to make the right decisions in the future. And that's the important thing. So if we see it now in the Stoic sense, which I personally prefer, is what can we control? We can control only ourselves in the moment of the decision. That is what we can do. We can react to what we see, and we can act to what we think, right? We cannot control the outcome. If we need to make a decision, we need to just make it. Then we see what happens, and then we can control how we react to the consequence. And then we can define upon that, again, how we act about that, the adaptation, so improving, learning from that. And that is the cycle which actually never ends. And that's the cycle which brings people, good CEOs, good CTOs, who need to make decisions on a daily basis, where it looks like they make it like an easy thing and they just have experience. No, it's not just having experience. The experience they have was not just observing things, it was making active decisions, learning from that, and it includes failure, includes successes, and then move along. And over a long enough timeline, you learn out of that. You know, the new patterns emerge in your subconscious mind and you will spot them. And that will give you the confidence which you actually need to do these kind of decision-making processes, right? And when you have that, you will see that you won't stuck in that situation anymore. Because being stuck in that moment means you cannot do your job. You sit there and you are afraid to make the wrong decision, as if this decision would be the biggest decision you'd ever do, which is not. It's just a tiny little fraction of your year, of your week, and even your day. And that is what you need to realize. All these kind of steps are small baby steps and not the decision of your life. And if it's the decision of your life, then think about it longer. That's okay. But figure out what kind of decisions are that severe and that, impacting, and which are not. And you will see that most decisions we do are not as severe as we think. It's just based on the different fears, on the different angst we can have, right? Fear of missing out, fear of making the wrong choice. There are so many things going on in our head when we need to make a decision. But once you get used to making decisions, once you build up these patterns, it becomes easier and easier and easier. And at some point in time, you will feel free about that. And that's one of the most important aspects, the fine things behind that you actually become a confident person who is never caged in the own anxieties when you need to make a decision. As a leadership person, it is extremely important to understand that. I hope that helped you a little bit to manage your dilemmas you might face. And the rule of thumb is you shouldn't stuck in a dilemma. So you actually see that there is a dilemma coming, you make a decision, you move on. That's it. You don't stuck. And you do that on a daily basis. If others see you doing that, they will take that as a role modeling thing. So they will act like that as well. So if you are, for example, a leader and you have sub-leaders will adopt the same stance to make faster decisions, because that becomes part of the culture if you are the living example for that, which is great for the mission and the vision. Okay? I hope that helped you a little bit. See you next time. Goodbye, everyone.